Wally Pritchard contacted me about the South Africans. He said the oil embargo, if we can do something about it, it's the heartblood of South Africa. So we organised a meeting and decided to in London, and from that meeting we decided to embark upon Maritime Unions against apartheid.
The Maritime Unions against apartheid really was a manifestation of that determination to do something and to put real muscle and real teeth around those UN embargoes. And in Denmark, in the UK, and in other areas around the world, there was the campaign. Obviously the primary target was weapons, and then of course the secondary campaign was the UN embargo against oil that had no real muscle. Big companies like Maersk, for example, were bringing in oils, you know, and really there wasn't much obliging of the UN embargo. And so it became very important that strong unions and unions that could affect that trade took action.
The system depended on the military, basically, and the military depended on the oil. You could not fly those choppers over Soweto without oil. How we started is a good story because it sort of typifies exactly how any delegate would react to the circumstances. Brian Price came into my little desk. He put down a book called the Shipping Research Bureau, which I hadn't seen before, and it outlined all the things that the ship owners had done to get oil to South Africa. It named them, it shamed them. It said the oil companies, it said the destinations, where the pickup points were.
And yet in that whole framework, it took 4 or 5 unions to go out and take the risk and to be able to be part of a leadership that was really translative to an outcome.
That's the important difference. Take it out of the desk, onto the streets, onto the wharves. Once that was announced, I believe that the price of a barrel of oil went up about 50 cents. Not much, you'd think, but it signalled the end.
Nelson Mandela came out here at the invitation of the Hawke government. Mandela said at Robben, he told me this just in the personal thing, that at Robben Island that you have no idea how much the sanctions and actions over the periods of time boosted the prisoners on Robben Island.
And we're sitting around a table and Pat Garrity joined us, and he knew some of the people who had come to Australia earlier. And he said to us, "We're going to meet Nelson Mandela." And there was just silence around the table. And then Colin Hollis joined us, the member for Throsby on the south coast. And in silence, we came to this room, and this very tall, regal gentleman, leader of people, opened the door and stood there very square-shouldered. And to the whole group of us, he said, "I am honoured to meet you." Well, that flattened us. Us blown away Australians, and he came out with this grand statement. The news that people were doing things, including our oil embargo, he said, just kept them alive from day to day. Most of us were just standing there with this look on our face of, I suppose, adoration of being in the presence of a great man, probably the greatest man of the century.